Do you see the African people actually are also interested in Krishna consciousness?
Many, many. I mean, it's like Russia. You know, you may have heard about the glasnost in Russia, that after communism stopped, that the Russian people were so interested. South Africa's like that. The African people are totally interested, you know. It's like Atish is now traveling with me. He just came to South Africa. As we were leaving the country, he was going to the immigration booth, right, for going out of the country, get his passport stamped. So, you know, a few ladies in police uniforms and so on stamping passports. And he started preaching, and they all grouped together in his booth. He had 3 of them hanging at his lips while he's preaching to leave the country. That wouldn't happen in Australia, I can tell you that, you know.
Not often.
They're not like that. You know, you go do a university program with African students, and you get 40 questions, and they follow you to the car with more questions. I mean, it's like red hot. It's not just hot, it's red hot. People are so eager. Everyone is so interested. So interested.
So there's a surge for Krishna consciousness.
Really, for just the ability to be free and to choose your own spiritual life. It's amazing how good it is. They are ready, we are not ready.
Oh, interesting.
That's the problem. If only we were more ready, we could make so many more devotees. It's a challenge. And it's very easy to attract people. The next problem comes when we have to look after people.
Right.
Yeah. Just like here, here we are a largely congregationally based movement. We have lots of people, they all live at home and practice Krishna consciousness at home, and you all have nice tilak, and we assume you have an altar at home and are offering everything, and that you are nicely practicing Krishna consciousness at home. In South Africa, it's also a largely congregationally based movement. But that's not ideal for the African population, because their culture is very different, and it's not supportive, and often backgrounds in, when they were kept in poverty by the government, then naturally their areas also no education, so it became a little bit low class.
Right.
Once people were all put together in the cities, then the village culture got lost, and then what did you get? Not such a... Then you got low city life, naturally. So they need facility. So we have to create places where they can stay, and yet we don't want to create all separate centers, like an Indian temple, an African temple, a white temple. We want also integration. But integration, it's necessary in South Africa, integration. But integration is not easy when there are such cultural differences. You see it here in Australia. You have a largely Indian congregation, and how to integrate with the Australians, mate. It's like, it's a different flavor. Sometimes it goes well. Just like in India, when I was in charge in Vrindavan, I invited some Australian devotees to open the temple in Jaipur. Now Jaipur is a very cultural place, so everyone in Jaipur is coming to the mandir. And then we got these Australian devotees, and they go like, "Hey mate," bang, slap them on the back. "How you going?" And actually, these people from Jaipur, they like it. It's a welcome change, something informal. But obviously, in a country where you deal with different cultures, which have been quite separated, and we try to integrate it all in the temple, that can sometimes create misunderstandings and tensions and complications. And we'll need to create ashram facility for African devotees. So right now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create small preaching centers. So I've opened up a few small preaching centers which are low budget, and I give them a chance to do something. We have a few of them. I'm supporting these centers. Then I'm organizing Ratha Yatras in Soweto, which is a black area attached to Johannesburg with 2 million people. It's like the biggest ghetto in South Africa. And the world is looking at Soweto. The final of the World Cup was there. So there's a lot of attention going. Many tourists are going there. Mandela's house is there.
That's right.
Many Americans are coming there to take pictures in Mandela's house. So we're doing something in Soweto. There's a temple there. Well, I also invest in individuals. I take devotees and I send them to India or to Radhadesh or other places where they can spend some time and be trained, and then they can come back and start leading some preaching activity.
That's pretty amazing. Maharaj, you also are involved in Europe. You preach in many countries throughout Europe. And I wanted to ask you some questions which are more internationally pertinent at this point of time. Especially in your hometown of Amsterdam, there's now various laws permitting euthanasia. And the reason why I bring that up is because at the present stage, that's also a topic here in Australia, for Australia to start adopting some of these laws similar to the ones that are in Amsterdam and in the Netherlands. I'd like you to comment on that from a Krishna conscious point of view as far as euthanasia is concerned.
Well, I think you're all familiar what euthanasia is. It's basically where a person who is dying requests to be relieved from suffering and is through a medical help basically given some drugs by which they can voluntarily leave this world. We would not, from a Krishna conscious point of view, we can't support such activity. Although we can understand that there are some arguments, if somebody is terminally ill and just having so much pain, saying like, please, just give me a shot and let it be over. I'm going to die anyway. We understand that kind of a mentality. So we're not insensitive to euthanasia or to the idea that people... But we can't condone it because man cannot take that right in his own hand. We decide that I'll end my life. We have to leave it up to the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord will decide, when is our time of death and so on. However, the Vedic literature does offer a way out. Because the Vedic literature says that if one is indeed terminally ill or in his dying stage, that then, and one is so suffering so much, then it is permitted to fast till death. That is permitted. But one cannot take any drug or any poison or anything like that. But one is permitted to fast till death in such a case. Not an ordinary person, but a person who's really like on his deathbed, a long drawn out deathbed or so, may fast till death. That is permitted, and that is the only way that it can be done. But what we are seeing in the hospitals, they're intravenously feeding people and keeping them alive in that way. They keep them on a life support machine and so on, and all that is also not required.
That's right.
I mean, the West has so many ways to prolong life. So Vedic culture is offering a way out, but definitely no poison or anything like that.
Another controversial thing that's happening in Europe, to a lesser extent here in Australia, is the growth of the Islamic faith throughout Europe. It's causing controversy. Do you see that as a good thing? And what are your views in regards to why the Islamic faith is gaining such popularity throughout the world?
I think that in this modern time of the global village where cultures are mixing and so on, it's inevitable that such developments take place. Europe has brought in many people from Islamic background as cheap labor, you see, for their factories. So they're reaping the results of their own activities. Countries like France also in the past maintained many colonies of an Islamic background, such as Morocco, Algeria, and so on. So France is loaded with Islamic people. Spain is, of course, on the border with Morocco.
Right.
And Spain has in the past been invaded by Islam. Mm-hmm. It wasn't Islamic, but there was Islamic influence in Spain. There was invasions, Islamic invasion. They held territory. Mm-hmm. It was not that Spain was not Islamic, but they had Islamic influence. So it's not that Europe has no Islamic history. Also Yugoslavia, through Turkey, had traditionally Islamic influences in settlements, and up to the day of today, that's still existing. So in Central and Northern Europe, okay, they brought in a lot of people, and with it also maybe a more fanatic element also came in. You know, as every tradition has its more moderate side and its more rigid side. So the more rigid side of Islam can be confrontational with other beliefs and opinions, as we know, and they can create tension, as it does everywhere in the world. Right. In India we know very well. I also know very well in India because I was involved in Makrana to buy marble, and it was very, very many Muslims there. And then one night there was a Hindu who was drunk, who in a bar, who said that this book of satanic verses was a really good book. From Salman Rushdie. Wow. Then, you know, they went into the masjid, they took all the petrol, they came out and they burned down the whole mazar. Then, of course, the Hindus retaliated and it became a whole thing. So we have seen such things. The Babri Masjid, that means the birthplace of Ram.
Right, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All these things we have seen. So tension is natural.